Board of Port Wardens on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025 will be called at 7 p.m. In attendance tonight, we have Port Warden Siegel, we have Port Warden Anderson, Port Warden Lerner, and Port Warden McCobb, as well as myself. So we are fully, all five of us are here. We also have, of course, Carrie from the city and Mike Meekins from the city as well. And then, of course, Madeline's helping out. So we have all those staff and Port Wardens in attendance. I need a motion and a second to actually, I'm sorry. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. At the time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion
to approve.
All right, that was a quickie. I'm giving it to Anderson first and Lerner. Can I get a second? I guess.
Okay.
All right, Lerner, just got that. All right. All right. So all those in favor of accepting the agenda or approving the agenda, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that was unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the June 24th, 2025 meeting. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion
to approve.
Okay, motion. Thank you. I guess Mr. Siegel, and then a second by Mr. Lerner. All right, all those in favor of accepting the or approving the minutes from the June 24th, 2025 meeting, please say aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, thank you very much. That was all five. That was unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion passes. All right, next item on the agenda is findings of fact from June 24th, 2025 meeting. And this one is the finding of fact for application 2025-00007 Tecumseh Condominium Council of Co-Owners at 312 Severn Avenue. And it's the partial depth concrete repair work on concrete beams under the main level of the condo building. Conditions of the project completed, installing a cofferdam and draining the marina in order to complete the work. Marina will be returned to existing configuration. Is there a motion to approve the written finding of fact? Okay, I got a motion. All right, Mr. Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm giving that to Mr. Siegel. Thank you very much. All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve the written findings of fact for Port 2025-00007 Tecumseh Condo Council of Co-Owners at 312 Severn, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. That motion passes and it was unanimous. All right, let's go down to new business and give me 1 second to open the documentation if I can. And this will be next item on agenda is Port 2025-00008, and it's 817 Chester Avenue. Unfortunately, I don't have a, Mrs. Powell is the owner of the property. So can we go ahead and if the tech can bring in anyone who's planning to testify, I need to have an image of so if is everyone who's going to be speaking to this particular port application visible on screen right now. I do have Mrs. Powell in attendance, but I do not see her. I need to see the person if they are going to be presenting. If not, it's fine.
I will be representing Miss Powell.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Norris. All right, if you could raise your right hand. I'm going to go swear you. All right, as a preliminary matter, the board will, you do solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that testimony you are about to give to the Port Wardens is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so as a preliminary matter, the board will accept into record the application packet, the staff report, and any public comments. we always obviously open it up to the city staff, to the board, which Mr. Meekins, and like him to present any additional information about the written staff report and any other existence of public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No public comments were received for this application. The applicant posted the property, mailings went out, and the newspaper ad was advertised. I'd like to make one edit to my staff report. I actually said there was no encroachment within the 5-foot lateral line, which is actually going to be to the east of the property. And this is for dredging, just to give some context to what I'm talking about. So there is some encroachment, but however, the immediate property owner to the east, Dean T. Slaughter, submitted a letter of no contest or in support of the application, and I don't know if that made it into your package, but just wanted to put that on record.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and I guess bring Mrs. Norris in. If you can just briefly describe your qualifications, you're relevant to the application, just a quickie. We've seen you before, but it's good for both.
Okay, Renee Norris, owner and permit coordinator at RKN Marine Permits and Services, and I specialize in submitting marine construction project permits for City of Annapolis and Maryland Department of the Environment in Anne Arundel County.
Okay, thank you very much. If you can go as walk us through, feel free. If you have a screen to present, Madeline, can assist you, and it is sort of a nicer way for us to be looking at what you're looking at, although I have mine open as well. But
okay, so I am representing Mary Powell. I visited her property for the first time in March of 2021, and I took water depth measurements then, and I visited again in February of 2024. And over the course of those 3 years, we noticed that the runoff from the west was filling in the cove and causing the depths around her pier to significantly decrease. And as a result, Ms. Powell decided to pursue dredging to regain enough water depth to be able to dock a boat on the east side of the pier. I submitted the dredging permit applications to City of Annapolis and Maryland Department of the Environment. The certified letters were mailed July 10th, the signs were posted July 10th, and we received a letter of no objection from Mr. Slaughter next door. The proposed dredging is one section of maintenance dredging, which is 5.55 cubic yards. That was previously authorized under the MDE license 15GL0493 and was approved by Port Wardens in 2015 as well. The existing depth now is mean low water minus 0.5 feet, and we're proposing dredging to mean low water minus 2 feet. And then there are two sections that will be new dredging for a total of 10.37 cubic yards. The existing depth is mean low water minus 3 feet, and we want to dredge it to mean low water minus 4 feet. The total dredging for all three areas would be 15.92 cubic yards. There historically have been 3 boats docked at the pier. One with a draft of 2.5 feet, one with a draft of 2 feet 8 inches, and another one with a draft of 13 inches, just to show that historically other boats have been able to dock there with the water being deeper than 2 feet. The MDE license 25WL0173 for the current dredging project is still under review. MDE just sent their R&R to the Board of Public Works this morning, so we're still waiting on authorization for that. And that's basically the background for what we're requesting for dredging.
Okay, and if they're strictly dredging, there's no alterations of docks at this point.
Correct.
Okay.
Just dredging.
All right. I really don't have that many questions. It's a dredging project, and it looks like it existed prior. I can see the historical images, and I can see boats in the historical images as well. I really don't have that many questions. So let me go ahead and refer or pass this over to some of the other port wardens. And there is no other public testimony, correct, Mr. Meekins?
No, there were no public comments.
Okay, great.
No one signed up to testify tonight.
Okay. I really don't have any more questions. Then it's a dredging job and it's in the hands of the state for that approval. All right. Do any other fellow port wardens have any questions?
I just wanted to clarify Michael Meekin's comment that the dredging was encroaching in the 5-foot setback, but not across the lateral line. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And similar to what Ms. Norris said, it was approved in 2015 for again, similar dredge area. But no, to answer your question, it does not cross the lateral line.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Lerner, Mr. Siegel?
I'm fine.
Okay. All right. All right. With no other questions, I believe they're all asked. I declare the public hearing for Port 2025-0000, whatever 40 is, 00008, 817 Chester Avenue, Mrs. Powell, Mary S. Powell, closed. I guess discussing there's Title 15, everything seems to be perfectly compliant. It's so far at the end of the creek, there's not much navigable from one direction. It's nothing of Title 15, 16, which is the primary elements we're dealing with, are an issue. There's no dock, there's no resetting or changing with a harbor line or lateral line. So statutorily, it seems absolutely perfect. Any more discussion of the code? All right. All right. I entertain a motion to approve or deny the application for Port 2025.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
second that. I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Motion made by Mr. Siegel, seconded by Mr. Anderson. All right. All those in favor of the motion to approve the application in Port 2025-00008, A17 Chester Avenue, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye. All right. That was unanimous. All right. Motion passes. Thank you guys very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right. Let's, if we can get everyone involved, or speaking to, or going to be coming into this related to Port 2025-00010, 722nd Street. And give me 1 second to open the accompanying document.
Do you want just the applicants, or do you want testimony too?
We will do testimony, but we don't need them. I don't believe we will invite them in at the point, or no, I should swear everyone in who might be speaking to this at the same time. So yes,
Sounds good.
let's bring everyone in who is related to this particular port application. And I will need to be able to see your image, so please make sure you have your video and audio turned on. Okay. All right, Mr. Rogers. All right. So let's get this started. All right, the next item on the agenda is Port 2025-00010, 722nd Street. It's a replace in-kind 6x14 pier with 10x12 floating platform and 3 mooring piles. Replace 38 lateral feet of bulkhead with 14 lateral feet of return. And now that we've brought everyone aboard, which is great, I need anyone planning to testify to please raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. And you do solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is to the Port Wardens is the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, as typical that we do with the board, we'll accept the record of the the record of the application packet and the staff report and any public comments. We turn it over to Mr. Meekins if he can present any additional information about the written staff report and or confirm, that there's been public comments and that's been dealt with.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing really major to add to the staff report. I'd just like to add, though, a little background. I did look for previous approvals for the structures that are in place and being replaced in kind. Looked in the city archives and also the MDE, and I was unable to find evidence of prior permits. So I just want to put that out there. And then with respect to public comments, Mr. Rogers, who's actually attending tonight, submitted public comments, which I have shared with you all via email. So with that in mind, I will turn it over back to you, Mr. Chair, and to the applicant.
Okay. All right. I guess who will be speaking, or there might be more than one, for the actual applicant? Is it Mr. Milky or Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Milky, Scott Milky from Waterfront Engineering. I'm the
Okay.
principal.
All right, thank you. And if you could, again, I know we've seen you many times, but if you can give a brief description, qualifications that are relevant to the application, just for the record.
My name is Scott Milky. I'm a professional engineer, and I specialize in the development of waterfront property, mainly maritime structures, marina piers, dredging, bulkheads, replacements, etc.
Okay. And again, if you could please share any relevant screens, Madeline can help you do that. We do have the application right in front of us and other resources, but it is always nice to be able to be referring to the exact same thing like page number and location just when we talk about this stuff. Again, I do have it in front of me, then in that case, page number. But if you want to share the screen, that's fantastic. It really is helpful.
Chris, do you want to put sheet 7 and 14 up?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, what we're proposing to do, the applicant is proposing to do, I'd like to start out by amending our drawing here. We would like to just replace in kind one mooring pile. We're not pursuing the replacement of the kind of the floating pier and the 2 other mooring piles. Just the one outboard pile of the pier, and Chris can point to that on the screen there.
Oh,
No, the pier.
oh, apologize. Bear with me for a second. Of the pier.
No, right there.
Oh, come on. Apologize. This is not.
No worries. Now
Yeah, the one, you get the idea.
Yeah.
That
Sorry.
mooring
Okay.
pile. And then the other work, the 38 feet of linear feet of bulkhead will be replaced.
Okay.
No pier. And no pier.
Okay. So no pier anymore. Carrie, is there any elements with the percentage of alteration to an application that would make the applicant to have to resubmit, or if it's or postpone, so we don't take a vote, so it goes like, can you help me with that?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Well, they're altering an application by a small amount, albeit it's actually probably a fair amount considering there's only a replacement of the bulkhead and a removal of a piling, but is there a certain percentage of an application alteration that would require it to go through the process in some way again?
No, there's nothing that says if, you're amending a certain percentage, 20% of your application, it goes through the process again. Usually the recommendation has been if there is going to be an amendment to the application, that the hearing be postponed to the next meeting so that that amendment can be made and then sort of resubmitted, as opposed to redoing the whole process, and then it can be taken up at the next meeting.
Okay.
But if there's a change to the application, then it should be, the application itself should be amended to reflect that change.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we definitely want to hear this out and then hopefully get to a resolution tonight. All right. So, Mr. Milky, is there anything more or less at this point? You're just merely not replacing the floating dock and that other small pier out to it, I guess. You're just
That's
doing the
correct.
bulkhead and the removal.
And the 2 pilings that are shown closest to the bulkhead.
The 2 pilings closest to the bulkhead. Oh, the ones that sort of in the center of the piling going down to the float. Okay, as well as the one just to the north side.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I really don't have that many questions at this point. There is I don't have that many questions at this point. I mean, I'm taking when the lateral lines look good, we're not really, if anything, you're removing something that it looks like it was fine anyway with the 5-foot setback, but it's making it even more open. So I don't really have that many questions. I don't know the timing of some of the elements. I see that lateral line to the sort of south of that area you're discussing, but that's your own property anyway, right? I mean, it's not like the setback applies to the end of that T dock where the
No, these are long established
right.
lateral.
Okay, that's what I figured. Just clarifying. All right. I guess let me is there any public testimony?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rogers.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right. I'm Stephen H. Rogers, owner of 716 2nd Street, a direct neighbor. And the purpose of my comments and requests for correction is that I'm in no way trying to stop the owners of 720 2nd Street from constructing or building a pier. It is my intent to get sufficient detail in the application and on the drawings so we know where this dock and piling are going to be placed, and the bulkhead they plan on replacing connects to a bulkhead I installed on my boat ramp, and the property line runs right down the middle of that boat ramp wall. And so it's of concern to me that there's no detail on connecting the new bulkhead to the relatively new boat ramp. And so unless that's done properly, you'll get erosion and things will fall apart. Secondly, the bulkhead they show that they're replacing contradicts with the existing bulkhead that's on the drawing. There's an existing 87-foot bulkhead, and they're talking about cutting through the middle of it and replacing just the part on their property. And there's no detail on how to do that, because it's the same thing. It'll erode and fall apart. The application, it's called the Plan Snapshot report. It's the filing sheet showing the record for this case. Is wildly inconsistent and incorrect because it says the number of existing slips is 12 and there are no existing slips. It says total slips proposed 0, and I think the applicant wants 1 or 2 slips. They're not talking about dredging, although the application says it's to be removed by barge. So that doesn't make any sense. It shows material to be transported into the site to be 0, yet their plans show filling between the new and the old bulkhead with gravel. And the number of slips, the length of slips, they're all inconsistent. They're saying, is this a marina? They're saying yes. Well, I don't know what in the city's view constitutes a marina, but 2 private slips is certainly not a marina. So they're calling it a marina. And Mr. Meekins told me that they had to apply for approval for electric and building permit and a few other things. And as far as he was concerned and what he told me, those had not been done yet. So I think the plan snapshot, it's the record of the application in the city's computer. I would suggest that that is corrected to be consistent with what they're planning to do. I agree with Mr. Meekin's research that there was no permit when this small dock was installed. It was installed one weekend while I was out of town, and I never said anything because it didn't bother me at the time. But now that they're trying to make it legal, I think it's important that we do all the appropriate paperwork. The drawing package shows piers of all adjacent properties, but none at the front bulkhead. Scope of the work is not clear. There's no location of where the pier gets placed on the bulkhead. If it's going to be replaced in the exact same location, then it probably should say that. The generic pier sketches that the applicant uses on sheet 9 are generic. They're not specific to the site. And I think Mr. Milkey, all he has to do is cut and paste, and he probably make the generic to be specific to the site. Since there are so many deficiencies, I agree that this application should be corrected, not declined. And the actual sheet that they submitted, paragraph 4 on page on page 11 says that this package has to be stamped by a licensed professional engineer, and paragraph 4, and it's not stamped or certified by a licensed professional engineer. And the relationship of the 2 property corners where the bulkhead is to be stopped and started should be identified with some type of reference. to my property, the property next door. There ought to be some reference or have it surveyed. I'm not insisting on that, but I'm saying there ought to be some reference to where those two corners are. How wide is it and where are they? I'm just as an overall comment. I don't think it's Mr. Milky's standard product, but there ought to be a lot more detail, and the application should be corrected. And therefore, as a neighbor, I'm suggesting, so we don't have any questions on a resubmittal, that things be corrected, detail be provided, and we all be given proper notice. The mailing was sent to my past address, not my current address, and the applicant knows where I live. So I don't know whether that was deliberate or not deliberate, probably accidental. Luckily, the postal system took care of that, but very late. So I appreciate the opportunity to share these comments with you. And I encourage you to continue to listen to the public and apply their comments to whatever you do. I think that's the most effective way of running the government, because it is our community. And I'm going to repeat, I'm not trying to prevent this permit. I just would like more detail, and I'd like it to be resubmitted so that we can all understand it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess, can we have the applicant it's sort of not rebuttal, but can you speak to some of these concerns and or clarify what has been done? I do notice, and I'm not a big fan of the word typical in a lot of the descriptions under, as far as the drawings go. That being said, there is a typical wall splice and elements like that. But let me go ahead, Mr. Milky, if you or Mr. Snyder, if you could speak to some of his concerns.
Yeah, as much as I can address, all the references to the pier being replaced and more detail with the pier, we're taking that all out of the application. So most of those comments all are pretty much not going to be part of that discussion. So the other thing, he had requested a seal on to the cross section of the bulkhead. Our bulkhead details are very detailed, and they are job specific. The only thing it says that a registered licensed engineer, which I am, shall stamp the drawing if you have heavy loads, waves, or currents. We do not have heavy loads, waves, or currents back in that cove. There's no need to stamp it. So that's not necessary. I've got more than enough detail in the bulkhead cross section and spliced and whale splice details. Fabric, specific fabric that we're supposed to use. Tying in, and the other question I think was one of the big ones. He talks about 187 feet of bulkhead being replaced. That is actually not the case. The 187 is 187 degrees, which is the angle between the two properties. It's what you use to establish the lateral line. So the angle between the two is 187, and the bisection of those two is 93.67. So that's where, that's a lateral line sheet.
Is it closer to 42 feet of bulkhead being replaced? Just that area that
it's 30, yeah, it's 38 feet.
Okay, that's what I see on Google Earth. Okay.
So normally when we tie another bulkhead into another, and the one that's already there, we just drive piles right next to it and bolt them all together, make sure the filter cloth's behind it and proper drainage so we don't have erosion.
Right.
So the boat ramp retaining wall that Mr. Rogers refers to is actually owned by the applicant. We're not proposing to replace that. We're just leaving it in place at the same height and just tying into it. But that is owned by us, not by Mr. Rogers.
Okay.
And I think that's pretty much it. I don't think there was other. any other things? Most of the stuff that his questions were related to the pier, which is not part of the application anymore. So I think that would be kind of it. Unless you have any other questions that you might have.
Mr. Rogers has his hand up. I don't, it's not ping pong, but at the same time, it might be able to answer a quick question. Mr. Rogers, what's your question?
The question is the water depth. You know, if they're planning on having a boat slip, most people like to have enough water depth so you can park a boat. Previously, the applicant moved a sailboat in there and parked it, and the boat tipped over and almost capsized. So I'm suggesting that maybe they need to dredge here. I'm just offering this as a suggestion. While they're permitting, they probably should be dredging, because the berth is only acceptable for a kayak or a sailboat that has no draft. So, or a motorboat with an engine that doesn't go below 2 feet. So I'm suggesting that this is probably not the only permit they're going to submit. And the comment from Mr. Milky about the corner, I did install that bulkhead for the ramp. The property line runs down the outside face, so the ownership of that bulkhead does belong to my neighbor, but they're still not providing the detail to connect the two. And I don't want their gravel to fall into my boat slip, which is next to that bulkhead. And if he could show me that he's going to put a wraparound, bolted together corner of some kind, I'd be more than happy to agree to that. But there's no detail on that. And if you have no detail and you're building, it's not going to be built right. So I'm just asking for cooperation, and so we don't have a problem.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So as you probably know, we don't make decisions based on an application that might occur in the future. We base it off the application here. And there is no application for a slip in that location. So we can assume that they're creating this for the purpose of a slip. Okay. Let me go ahead and
Do you want me to talk again?
Yes, please. Mr.
Okay. If it would make Mr. Rogers happy, I would be more than willing to draw up a small detail and provide it with the building permit application. That's not an issue. We have no intention of letting the material leave the yard. That's the whole
right.
point.
Thank you very much. So, as we always say, we really try to find a way to say yes as easy and as quick as we can with all the final detail. I do know and I do trust the city and their building department, and I know they're not going to let something either sneak in, and especially at the point at which it's being built, that they'll keep an eye on it. So I understand the desire to have every last detail, but I know that building department will not approve something without knowing how it's going to go together and then inspecting it as it goes together. So I don't have that many questions, but I do feel like the other port wardens might have some. So let me sort of pass the baton. Mr. Siegel?
I just want to clarify, we can do this even though they've removed this without having a clean application. Is that what Mrs. Berger said?
My understanding is that
you're required by law to have a clean application.
So to reiterate what I said before, generally, if there's an amendment to the application, a postponement occurs so that there's time to amend the application, and then the public hearing continues at the next meeting, and then that's when a decision is made.
Okay. All right. So I'm not closing this, and I'll continue the discussion, but I might propose, since Mr. Milky had offered to say, look, we'll sort of get it cleaned up for Mr. Rogers, that we potentially let me still let the questions be asked so we can get as much as we can out of this so that if we do have to postpone, we come back and it's a sort of an easier process. Mr. Lerner.
No, that's all I had. That's all I
Okay.
asked.
Mr. Siegel.
Yeah, I was listening, and Mr. Rogers' items were pretty clear. The application, to be honest, looks sloppy. It just does. There's too many things that look like need to get cleaned up. And I think that as a neighbor, Mr. Rogers, he's not objecting to it. He just wants it to be clean. I had a problem also when they mentioned a marina. That's not a marina has boats, and now they're talking about they're not even having boats in it. There's just too many things here. Why don't y'all just clean it up, talk to Mr. Rogers, show him what you want to do. And if he's happy, then we'll probably be happy as well. But right now it's just too many addendums that just I'm not comfortable with.
Okay. Mr. Anderson.
I'll agree with Mr. Segal.
Okay. Mr. McCop.
I agree with what's been said.
Okay. All right. Any more questions or just and so we can sort of declare the public hearing closed?
I do have one question.
Yes, Mr. Siegel. Thanks.
Does he want to withdraw this, or should we vote on it?
No, I don't want to close it. I want to continue it
Okay,
till
postpone.
next month. So I will come back with a new set of drawings and re-present next month. But please leave the record open.
All right. Thank you. All right. So there are no more questions by port wardens and or any testimony.
I have one question about it never being permitted in the first place.
Yeah.
The applicant who's with me bought that house and that pier was there. She doesn't have any knowledge if a permit was ever pulled or not. It was installed way before she owned it. So
I've checked photos. I can see it clearly in 2005 present in the photo. I do not see it prior because the graininess of the images prior. There's one from 2002 where I think I see it, but it's too grainy. But it has been there for decades at this point. So,
well, the statement made by the gentleman says that it was done while he was away, so it can't be that long ago.
Well, he could have been away 20 years ago, but it was here in 2005.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
So it's a non-issue if it's not permitted, regardless of when it was built.
It predates a good photo. Again, there's no question it was there in 2005. It's in the image on Google Earth.
My suggestion is that it be submitted as a new pier.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. So let me go ahead and declare the public hearing for Port 2025-0008 Chester 817 Chester. No, I'm sorry. This was for Port 2025-00010 722nd Street, Lawson Maritime Holdings. So
Robert, just real quick, you don't want to declare the public hearing closed. You want to?
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to postpone Port 2025-00010 722nd Street, Lawson Maritime Holdings, such that the application gets cleaned up and we can hear it quickly in the next one?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Siegel. Thank you very much. All right. All those in favor in postponing Port 2025-00010, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. That was 5. That was unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for cooperating and sort of working out. It always goes better when sort of neighbors they're both as happy as they can be. So, all right. Thank you so much, guys. All right. Let's go ahead and move to the miscellany. We have no more current new applications, which is great. So the next is the discussion from June 24th meeting. about the safe harbor lines, which the address, let me pull that up. If we can actually, while I'm pulling that up, Madeline, can you bring all parties involved with that application? And we're not going to be swearing in, but if you can, if you want to be seen, that's great as well. It's more easy to have a conversation. All right, so I see Mr. Jacobs, Mr. Arnett, or Alderman Arnett, and Jackie Guild. I'd like to, as Carrie said, this kind of discussion, it's not an application at this point. It's obviously not an application at all. It's a potential legislation. I'd like Mr. Arnett to, I guess, speak to it. And then we can do some Q&A and I guess us port wardens can ask our questions and discuss some of the elements that relate to what we're responsible for, which is Title 15. So, Mr. Arnett.
Thank you very much, Chair and Port Wardens. I'm sorry I wasn't here for your June 24th meeting. I wasn't aware it was on the agenda, but I did watch the video after the fact and saw some of the confusion. I hope I can answer some of those questions this evening, and happy to do that. By way of background, this body approved a public water access at the end of 6th Street. And of course, the council supports all of the public water access we can get. And so we were pleased that you approved that. In the process, however, because of historic positioning of slips by the former Mears Marina, 3 to 5 slips in now Safe Harbor are impacted by the need to move the pilings back inside our riparian, our lateral lines. And so this legislation is the legislation that is submitted typically whenever we, the council, are considering amending a harbor line. The port wardens are lucky you get to see it twice. Once you get to review the legislation, which is before you tonight, and then when there's an actual application submitted, that's when your real work goes into place. So I've sponsored 3 previous harbor line amendments, and this is the way we've followed the process we've followed in the past. The proposal is to extend the harbor line as is shown in the legislation in the photograph. So if you have that photograph before you, at the top of the photograph, you see a red line, which is the current.
Can you share that by any chance, or do you need me to?
I need you to. I am not computer literate.
Okay, give me 1 second so that I can get it.
Thank you.
Hold on. Okay, so I've got a 2-page document. Let me go ahead and share. Share. And then, okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, I can. Yeah, this is great. So if you look at the bottom of the page, you can see where the 6th Street, the city's lateral line comes out, and you can see pilings and boats that are encroaching.
Let me hold on a second. I'm sharing the incorrect thing. I'm actually sharing a thing with Terry Lomax that I had saved. If you don't notice that, let me go ahead and unshare that and share it's the same image, but that way I can go up or down. So I apologize. Madeline, where is the unshare in Zoom? I got you
for you.
Okay, please do. And then I'll select the correct thing to share. Hold on. I apologize, Miss Alderman. Hold on. Share. Here we go. Okay, this gives me the ability. No, it's not.
What I've heard is what we don't.
No, oh, sorry. Sorry, I keep grabbing the wrong thing. Madeline, unshare me for a second, please. God almighty, I gotta close that. So I don't make a mistake. All right. So, share. It's
These
still
drawings are missing is two things.
It's
One is we don't have it.
hold on. I don't know why, Madeline. It keeps grabbing the wrong. Can you do it again one more time?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry about this, guys. As my kids say, I'm getting old.
Mr. Chair, I can share it if you want me to.
Let me. Oh, please do. Please share it.
Okay.
Awesome.
There you go.
All right. Yeah. Can you see that?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Can you move it up and down? Can we go to the bottom, please, Mike? Yeah. So
You
no,
want the
no. All right. I want everybody to ignore that second page because I'm not sponsoring that.
Okay.
Right. So here at the bottom, you can see 6th Street coming in from the left, and you can see the blue dash line, which is our lateral lines for the city. And you can see how the first 3 slips are very clearly going to be impacted by the public access dock that you permitted. And if you recall that, because of the height of the street in there, there's 2 ramps that traverse back and forth, and then a floating dock shoots off of that because we need to be ADA compliant. So the original floating dock that was here was just straight down at the end of the street, and it was a small floating dock, didn't get in the way of anybody's anything, but that was not ADA compliant. So you can see the impingement that's happening to these existing up to 5 slips, but certainly the first 3. So then I talked with the owner's attorneys and said, maybe we can find some other place to make amends for that. And so if you move up, you can see the red line, which is the current harbor line. And then you can see the dash blue line, which is the proposal to allow them to extend out that far and put slips along there. And the reason that I'm keen on sponsoring this is I'm a boater myself. I live on 6th Street, and I don't think we have enough slips in the city. So anytime we can do something that is legal and sound and get more slips, I'm going to be in favor of doing that. As the alderman of the ward, it's typical that the alderman from the ward is the one that sponsors harbor line changes. I have more harbor lines in both Spa Creek and Back Creek than anybody else, so that's why I tend to get these things. So the simple purpose of this ordinance, the language in the ordinance, is to extend out to that blue line. The ordinance does not sponsor the proposal that got attached to this, which if you can go down, Michael, is that is not something that is to be considered in the ordinance. I know the port wardens have looked at this. This is a change within their marina, and it has nothing to do with extending the harbor line. And I'm not either supporting or not supporting any other changes that Safe Harbor would want to make. So I would ask you to just focus on the change to the harbor line. So returning to the legislation itself is, I think, pretty consistent and appropriate. If you look at line 17 on the legislation, it says for the purpose of changing the Annapolis Harbor line on Back Creek at 423 Chester Avenue. And the city council has, if you go down to line 33, has amended the Annapolis Harbor line maps for several years, and that's it. That's what this legislation does. It proposes to move out from the red dotted line out to the blue dotted line. And I think, where did I lose my notes? I think that's pretty much what I would say at this point, and then be happy to answer any questions or engage in any discussion.
Okay. As this isn't an application, obviously, but I'm going to use a little bit of the framework just so we can have a good, well-led discussion. I guess there's two other people in, and as we would normally go from the applicant, the consultant, we'd go to public testimony. Before we get into our questions, I guess, Mr. Jacobs, do you have something from, and where are you? Are you a neighbor? Are you are you related to, or Safe Harbor? I guess, Mr. Jacobs.
Good afternoon, Port Wardens. Tim Jacobs from the Annapolis Harbor Master's Office. So I'm just here to comment on our staff reports.
Thank you.
I can keep them short. So I would say, to the Alderman's point, although we do see the proposed harbor line change, we also saw in that drawing, what they would intend to do with that. And it's hard to unsee that. However, even at its face value, when we look at the area that they're proposing to increase the harbor line, it's one of the tightest spots in all of Annapolis city waters in terms of maneuverability and navigational space. The proposed change, as was measured by the Maritime Advisory Board, would change the distance between the adjacent or marina across the creek from 213 feet to 156 feet, which may, 57-foot difference may sound small and probably would be small in other areas, but in this particular spot, that is our general concern. So without even seeing the proposed dockage change, it's a concern. And then when you add in potentially putting larger vessels backing out of that particular corner, it's very much a concern.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
This did come up at the Maritime Advisory meeting, their last meeting. And what I asked for, and the chair, Terry Lomax, agreed to ask for, is to postpone that hearing and come back with a set of drawings that shows the entire span of Back Creek there from shore to shore, and show this marina, and show, and actually I would like to go out with Tim or with Terry and look at it, but and I've asked the attorneys for the applicant to actually show us measurements on the photographs, but I'm hard pressed to think that we're really talking about 57 feet, but if it is, it is. And I will further say, I'm going to go by what the harbor master says. They are the professionals. They're the ones that protect our safety, mine too, because I go up and down Back Creek all the time. So when we go back to Maritime Advisory Board and re-review this, if the harbor masters have concerns enough to say this isn't a good idea, that's it for me. I will withdraw the legislation.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Guild, if you have
comments. Yes, good evening, Jackie Kyle, Deputy City Manager for Resilience and Sustainability, and the Harbor Master reports to me. I'm here just for any additional questions or to make comments if I think are necessary
okay,
with respect to this.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, so ask any questions I have first. Mr. Arnett, you or Alderman Arnett, you know, what are the three primary elements that marinas charge? How do they charge both transients and year-round people?
You're talking about slip fees?
Yeah, yeah. What are the three elements related to that? Length overall hint is one. What's the
Length,
other?
the width of the slip, the
Right,
length of the
beam
slip,
and and
and the length of the craft.
right, and draft.
And
Draft
well, the
has
draft, yes, yeah,
much to do with that, right?
yeah.
So, do you realize, at least rough measurements just on Google Earth, but they're talking about effectively 1,700 square feet affected of very shallow water up against the bulkhead. And that wedge, are you guys seeing this shared element on the screen?
We're seeing the photo.
Okay, great. So that is roughly 5,900 square feet of basically public navigable water that belongs to all of Annapolis boaters, right? And I understand, like I do think that there are certain times where, like eminent domain, like where you need to take something for the betterment of all, but it seems a little sort of mismatched to me that we're worried. Certainly, we want all people to be happy, and we want to say yes. And I love Safe Harbor as a boater. I'm going to be doing something with them up in Maine in a couple seconds or a couple weeks. But I have nothing against all of this. But I don't necessarily. I wonder how much of this is really um, uh, um, sort of the best for boaters being able to traverse through, as you heard from Tom Weaver, as you heard from almost everyone on the advisory board. It's a pretty tight spot out there. You ever get out there when people are waiting for to get fuel? It's sort of tight. You start throwing in the concept, and again, you can't unsee sometimes what you've seen, and that's not what you're backing. I understand that, but you start throwing 80-foot vessels or 70-foot vessels, the visibility reduces dramatically for all the boaters in that respective area. So I was looking at the sort of Title 15 that we normally answer, and there's 12 primary statutes. And of the 12, I came up with uh, 1620. I came up with effectively 9 that this would actually be an issue of navigation and potentially creating congestion in a pretty thick way. Now, that being said, I mean, I do want to see more info. Like someone had recommended, we should see the other side. We should see the proximity. We should see where things are coming from and going to. But it seems, I just have some questions as to what is the intent. It also, the concept of adding more slips, again, based on some of the elements, if you end up reducing, if you compare Google Earth with which is effectively similar to this, you end up going to a structure like this. You've dramatically reduced to get much larger vessels, which is, again, it's nice having larger vessels in our waters as well, but it can create some issues, and it ends up becoming a pretty dramatic net loss of actual slips to a lot of the smaller boat owners.
So I understand your analysis. If we can go back up to the photograph, please.
Sure.
The area that is contained between the dotted blue line, that triangle, the blue line and the red line,
yes,
I do not believe is any larger than the area, if you go down to the bottom, of the 3 to 5 slips that are really lost in terms of usability. So that's the comparison I was making in terms of the legislation.
Can I show you a view of that right here? Do you see that image?
It's at the end of my street. I know it.
Yeah.
And that black boat is Leo Wilson's boat. I know.
Right. This one that is already, I think, slightly over
It's very much over because
Okay.
that piling is 5 feet into the city's waters and it's 4 feet beyond the piling. So it
Okay.
is very much, and so it could not be there. If if they adhere to our city's lateral lines and move their pilings as required 5 feet within the lateral line, and the boats cannot go outside of the pilings, you're very dramatically reducing the usability. So the two little boats that you see there in this picture, which is a very helpful picture, are themselves going to have a hard time getting around the throw of the public water access dock. I mean, it's going to be fairly tricky. There's no way that those bigger boats, the one that's covered in the black and the one on the other side of it, are first of all, they're not legal, and secondly, there's no way they can navigate. Probably maybe the one out on the other side of the black boat could get in around the floating dock. It's not clear because we don't have the picture of well, there we go.
Here we go.
Here's the picture.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
You're a genius. Thank you for that.
okay.
So you can see the way that floating dock works because you approved it. So there's no doubt that, in my mind at least, that when we put in the public access, which I strongly favor, and so does the rest of the council, that it is impinging upon the slips that are right there next to it in the marina. Those are facts. The question is, should we do anything about it? Well, if we can, I think we should. Should we do something that impacts navigation? I would say no. So if that alternative of the moving the harbor line out is, in the view of the harbor master, going to be deleterious to navigation, as I've said before, end of story for me, I withdraw the ordinance. But what we're talking about here is the ordinance, not the application. And I would really urge you to think about the ordinance itself. When the application comes back to you, all of the points you're making now, I think, are absolutely germane and what you're supposed to be doing. But right now, what we're just looking at is the ordinance itself.
Okay. Mr. Siegel.
Yeah, I'm chomping at the bit here.
You and me both.
I want to go back for a minute, Mr. Arnett. You see that diagram right there? Part of what we discussed is where to put that dock. If you notice, the dock there is at the far south side. I'm going to call it the south side and approaching the lateral line of 6th Street on the south side. Right. We compromised and gave Safe Harbor, I'm going to call it Safe Harbor, that additional room, impinging on the rights, in effect, of the lady who owns the house to the south, because as opposed to putting the dock in the center, which is where it should be, we gave them that, and at the expense of several people who did not want that dock to be on the south side because it was right up against the lady's property line, and we knew darn well that all the dinghies coming in would be then on the south side of that dock, sitting on her property. And so, in effect, what it looks like Safe Harbor is doing, we gave them the inch, now they're going to want to take the mile. That pier that's circled should technically be in the center, and it wasn't, in order to allow those 3 or 4 boats that Safe Harbor has to be able to enter and exit through the city's lateral lines.
Harold, it can't be in the center because you need to do the ramps going back and forth. And so you get to pick which side are you going to put the floating dock off of.
Can I just interject, please? Can we stick to the conversation about the ordinance, not relitigating the Sixth Street
Sure,
application. It's
sure.
already been decided. It's already got a petition for judicial review. It should
Right.
not be before the Port Wardens for discussion. Stick to
Okay.
02125, please.
Okay. Anyways, I had to throw, I felt like I had to throw that in.
I have a question.
Yes,
Yes, Alderman, so is this ordinance going to set a precedent for similar change requests? Creek or any city waterways? Meaning what kind of implications in the future will it have? Or is there cumulative changes to the ordinance if it tracked? If you understand what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
how is this going to impact future dredging, stormwater, and waterway usage zoning?
I have, this is, as I said, the fourth Harbor Line Amendment that I have sponsored. There was the one at SAYC, the one at 222 Severn, and the one at Butler Marine. They were changes to the Harbor Line, and they were initiated by virtue of an ordinance like this. And then once the ordinance was passed, the application was able to be filed, and it was filed with the Port Wardens, and you and your predecessors adjudicated the application. As far as dredging or stormwater or any other things, I have no knowledge that there is or is not that. It's not germane to the ordinance. As far as this ordinance setting a precedent, no, it's following a precedent.
Okay, thank you. One more question. What about maneuverability analysis of boats? I mean, there's different types of boats, especially on Back Creek. I was at Mears yesterday talking to a customer, and I looked at the boats out there, and even on a Monday, it was busy. A bunch of little boats going out for an afternoon ride. It's very busy and all different types of boats. It is because of concern with the traffic as it is.
I understand that, and I've already addressed in this, when that goes before the Maritime Advisory Board or comes back to you as an application, I
Okay,
think
so
that's absolutely germane. I, for years, kept my boat at Muller Marine. I know those waters very, very well. And
sure.
you're right, it is a busy waterway. So is Spa Creek.
Okay, thank you. I'm just, the biggest thing I'm worried about is precedence, which you've answered. Thank you.
Yep. Happy to do that.
Mr. McCobb, Mr. Lerner?
Barry, do you have any questions?
I don't at the moment. I'm still taking in what's being said. I do have a concern about giving up city waterways and resident waterways for private entity to then make money off that waterway. Can you tell me the other ones where you moved the harbor lines? Was that a similar instance, or what were the purpose of moving the harbor lines for those Butler and the
Yes.
other ones you just mentioned?
Yeah, so the first one I did was Butler Marine, and he needed room to put in bigger ships. And so he amended his harbor line. That one had an interesting precedent for me, at least, in that he moved his harbor line to get the waterway that he needed, but he gave up some of his other water lines. So the net amount of water contained within his harbor line netted to zero. The next one was Carty Templeton, who wanted to do a 222, something very similar to what this map shows, which is she had a concave situation on her marina, and she wanted to straighten out the harbor line between the two outermost posts. And so she essentially got the blue line that is showing for here. On South Annapolis Yachting Center, that was a different thing. That was the combination of Sarles and Petrini, and both of those marina owners had a habit of appropriating or unappropriating slip space from time to time. And SAYC came and said they would like to return their harbor line to the historic harbor line. And we were able to go back actually into the 60s with aerial photographs that were taken for other purposes by University of Vermont, and we were able to establish that, in fact, the harbor line had been out to where we moved it by legislation and then was approved by the port warden. So those are the 4 cases. These are the 4 cases that I've been involved in, and I think probably the only one on the council, current council, that has ever been involved in harbor line changes.
And just for the record, Butler Marine is right here in this image in the top,
Mhm.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little off if you looked at the full scope. It's within itself of a whole bunch of other marinas, right? It's not in one of the major thoroughfares. Granted, the one at South Annapolis Yachting Center is in a major thoroughfare.
Right.
And it is a, it does become tight there. There are some coves for people to safely get to if they're in kayaks or paddle boards and stuff like that. And of course, Cardi's has the whole mooring field on the opposite side. It is a choke point if you count boats or moorings, but it's got navigable water within the various moorings. All right, Mr. McCott.
Um, I was just thinking, when we make changes to public roadways and things like that, there's often a period of study, traffic studies. Um, and it doesn't seem like we do that for waterways. It's very, it's the aldermen, a few people who are property abutters and port wardens and marine advisory, but no one's put buoys in the water to see what the impact on boaters actually is. I think that's interesting. And in this case, it does. I think Robert, your point is really really interesting. That you're basically saying that this because of this encroachment, uh, alleged encroachment on these 3 slips that would impact maybe $20,000 a year in mooring slip fees. That we're opening up and giving away very valuable public waterways to maybe the tune of $200,000. So it seems like an unequal equal trade here.
So if I can respond just a little bit, I'm not arguing with you because I think you're right. We're talking about value and we're talking about public value versus private value. And I think this is a very good dialogue. The I lost my thought. I'm sorry. I know that we have in the past relied on the port warden, I mean the harbor master, to do this kind of analysis. And once again, I will aver that I will again rely on the harbor master. But you're right, we could do things where we put out some temporary floating markers and see what difference it makes to the flow of the navigation in that area. I will say, if we want to do that, I think that's a good idea. It just won't happen in this term.
Yeah, I mean,
That's fine too.
yeah, I mean, when we do when we have an application for a dock, people have to post and put signs up and say, hey, look, I'm doing this project. But with a city ordinance, the people impacted, there's no requirement that you put a sign up for your ordinance
Oh, yes. No,
and
not for the
make sure
ordinance.
that these
Not for the
voters that
ordinance,
use the area.
when they come back to you for their application, they have to put up signs.
But the ordinance, I'm talking about
But
the
it's a
ordinance.
legislation, not
The
an ordinance.
legislation,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. The legislation notice is the notice that's put on the city's website for legislation. This will have a introduction. It did have an introduction at city council. There will be a public hearing for the legislation where the public can appear and give comments. And then it will go back. If it's passed, that's only the first step. The rest of the steps come back to you and your evaluation when you actually see an application. That's the time I think when it is very appropriate for you and the harbor master to be pointing out, well, you're taking away slips because you're putting in bigger boats. The implication of bigger boats is they're harder to navigate. And that's all you're in your bailiwick, and that will be coming back to you.
Right, but that it does
Yeah.
that occur after if that they now secure the riparian rights?
Yes. If the ordinance is passed, the harbor line is changed. What
Okay.
goes on within the harbor line in terms of any changes, including filling out the slips out to the new harbor line. But any other changes they would want to make in there are back to your province through applying through the planning department, and then it comes to you.
Okay.
I think the point I'm trying to make is that the notification standard of putting it on the website of the city is not the same
No, they're
standard
close to
as putting a
salon too.
sign out where the actual impacted area will be to the people who will be directly impacted and using it. That's the only point I'm
No, you're
making.
correct. We
Yeah.
put a sign on the land side, not on the water side. You're right.
Mhm.
I
I
have
think
a
that would be
general
cool.
question.
I can see all of these bobbing up and down signs in the water.
I have a
Mr. Seeger?
I have a general question, Ross. When was the latest harbor lines drawn, and who actually draws the harbor lines? I hate to be ignorant on that. Who drew who draws the harbor lines originally, and how recent are the recent lines?
You raise a very, very interesting question, and it's something I've already talked to the city attorney about. It seems we use harbor line in two different ways. One is the boundary for the yard, the slip yard for a marina or a private property owner. The other way we use harbor line is the center channel, which by code is the 50% of the middle of the water. In reality, I have a problem with that. In fact, Kevin Scott and I went back and forth over this. The channel doesn't always follow the middle of the water. The channel comes pretty close in at President's Point. And remember, President's Point wanted to do a change, and they wanted to do a harbor line amendment, and I sponsored that legislation, but it never got submitted because they found a way to make the changes they wanted staying within their harbor line. But there is a confusion. So this red dotted line on the photograph here is called the harbor line. It is Safe Harbor's harbor line. The harbor line for the channel is out in the middle of the water. And so I think we need to
There,
come up with two
for the
different.
record, the definition of harbor lines, and there are three. There are three different harbor lines, but they are in 150203L.
I know,
So if anyone needs that to really get solid, what I would probably agree with Mr. Arnett is there should be a published, there used to be one online, a GIS a mapping of it. And we have had meetings, and it's on the record that we are requesting the city, and I believe Mr. Meekins is actually working on that. But for the record, there is a definition of the harbor line, and to my knowledge, there isn't one called the center or anything in reference to the center.
I have, I'll get it for you. I have it in front of me.
Okay.
Because that's where in the code, and you go back to 15.
Right. It's right in front of me if you'd like me to read the three type.
Sure, go ahead.
Once again, these lines look straight, whereas you would think that they should be some curves, or how is it created exactly like this?
These red lines were created, and Debbie Goslin did a good job of talking about that at the Maritime Advisory Boards. These red lines basically parallel the shoreline. So you come out from the shore. It used to be you would come out 33% from the shore. The code got changed I just had that in front of me. I think in 2001, to say you only go out 25% from the shoreline. So the shoreline wiggles around and that red line follows the contours of the shoreline, and you cannot go from the shore out further than 25% of the entire width of the waterway. So from each shore, you can come out 25 feet, and the 50% of the waterway in the middle is not something that can be developed with slips and things like that. Moorings can go in there with the city putting the moorings in. But so this red line follows the contours of the shoreline. And whether it's 25, that was again, whether that's a quarter, whether it's more than a quarter, less than a quarter, we don't know because we don't have that full picture of the entire waterway. But those red lines tend to follow the shoreline. So you can see it swoops in at the end of 6th Street. So that is the one use of harbor line. The other use is the center of the waterway.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion about this? The harbor line, we could read, everyone can read it. It's in the title. But there are basically 4 elements that you'll come across: a fixed harbor line, the harbor line map, and a provisional harbor line. All right. Any more discussion? Port Warden, Mr. Jacobs? Port Warden. Okay. All right. Anyone else? I definitely think we need to see more information. I really do think that the how it's impacted, not just in the image that we're sharing, but sort of an image of the entire waterway. I do agree with Mr. McCopp. A study would be done. I assume if there was like an eminent domain situation for any road type of taking of someone's sidewalk or front lawn, before it became a law, I would assume it would be studied and not wait for someone for it to become law and then describe what they want to do with that particular property. But I guess it's slightly different with waterfront stuff. I will say also long term, the harbor line being sacrosanct has allowed decisions to really be made. I mean, it's like having all agreeing that 2 + 2 is 4. And if we start altering the rules with some of those particular set points, it's like randomly changing pins on property corners. So I'm just throwing that out as well. But what do I know? So
You know lots, Robert. You know lots.
I don't know about that. According to some, we're frequently confused. So let's go ahead and I guess, Carrie, do we have to make a formal statement or a formal like request at this phase, or no? It's just we've discussed it. It's in public record now, and we.
So you guys can make a recommendation, and that is sort of the limit of what you can do. So you can make a recommendation to, you can favorably recommend the ordinance. You can unfavorably recommend the ordinance. You could favorably recommend it subject to conditions, or you can take no action on making a recommendation for the ordinance.
Okay.
Or you could postpone it again. You have a few options.
I feel like there has to be a lot more.
Yeah, Chairman Severo.
What? I'm sorry, Mr.
Chairman
Andrews?
Severo, I'd like to make a motion to postpone till next time, so we get some more information, like you're saying.
Okay. And do we want to put some type of information out there? Like,
I don't think we need to. I think we need more time to get more facts together, and then we can make some sort of logical explanation.
How are we going to do that, we don't have a meeting in August. And when is this ordinance coming? When is this coming up for a vote?
I can answer that if you wish. It cannot come up to a vote until we've gotten the recommend, Carrie can correct me if I got this wrong, but we have to get a recommendation from you, and we also have to get a recommendation from the Maritime Advisory Board. Then it will go to committee. And the committees will then take into account the recommendations, and they will work on the ordinance. The ordinance then will be passed or not passed. After that, the applicant is free to go ahead and make an application to you to do whatever the ordinance says they can do. And then you get into a lot of the details that you got into this evening. But it has to get a recommendation from you and from Maritime Advisory Board, whatever that may be, yay, nay, no action, whatever, and then it can go to committee. And it'll come to the Rules and City Government Committee.
Okay.
Do you have any additional opinions at this point, Mr. Arnett, just from this discussion?
No, I actually, you're very consistent with the kinds of things that the Maritime Advisory Board discussed. And their conclusion also was come back with more information, and we'll consider it.
Could we possibly put unfavorable, but you know,
No.
willing to continue to look at more information, like a study of the safety of the area prior to this legislation actually going into effect? Is there something to the we don't want a non-action by us to allow a permanent transfer of riparian rights
Well, from what I
before a
understand,
study is done.
Chairman, from what I understand, what Gary Berger was saying was that they won't make a decision until we make our recommendation.
So generally, yes, but there is, well, they could make the council could make a decision absent a recommendation, depending on the timing of the legislation. It can be discharged from committees after 90 days. There is no statutory requirement that they wait for a decision to come in from Maritime Advisory Board or the Port Wardens. Is it good practice? I mean, Alderman Arnett would speak to it better than I could, but I think that the council as a whole is not going to make a decision unless kind of forced, so that they would prefer to have recommendations come from the boards that these pieces of legislation have been referred to. But my understanding is that it's not going to committee until September 11th. And I think Alderman Arnett just indicated, if not just now, but earlier, that Maritime Advisory Board has also postponed it. So I don't know that there's a sort of a absolute deadline that the legislation will have passed or not passed or what have you before your next meeting in September.
Does Alderman Arnett have the ability to actually postpone this? Because would you agree there should be more study done on giving away, potentially creating an unstudied challenge?
Yeah, no, I agreed with the finding from the Maritime Advisory Board. It's very hard to look at this photograph and really see everything that's going on. And so the request was made by me to the attorney representing the applicant to give us a full picture of shore to shore and to give us the existing conditions only from the marina and to give us measures. I'm dying to see what the distance is at the top of the picture there from the green piers to the red line, and then what is the additional distance between the apex of the triangle out to the blue line. I'm hard pressed to think that that's 68 feet, but if it is, that's pretty astounding. But that means that the waterway itself is much wider than I think it is. So it's very hard to judge this without the proper context. And that, so I think I was happy that the Maritime Advisory Board asked for more information. And when I asked the attorneys representing the clients for that, in fact, I spoke to Mr. Hyatt today at lunch, and he agreed that they would provide that. Obviously, they want a favorable outcome, so they'll provide anything we ask them for within capability.
Oh,
That's-
Mr. Arnett
yeah.
prepared the photo and who paid to have that produced, the waterfront engineering state plan?
You were breaking up. I couldn't quite hear you.
Who paid to have that site plan produced? Was it the city of Annapolis or was it someone else?
The applicant, the persons
Yeah.
that were asking for the ordinance.
The people that asked for the ordinance. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is interesting. I would think that as a city of Annapolis ordinance, the city should pay for this to be done.
I'm pretty sure we can get Sean Wampler to produce a GIS photograph of the area for us, and I can, if that's something that would be helpful, I can ask her for that tomorrow. I mean, from my perspective, a photograph is a photograph. And I guess I shouldn't say that in this day of AI, who knows what you could do with it. But I'm assuming it's a legitimate photograph. But I think that's a fair thing. We can ask Sean to just give us a GIS photograph. She did the GIS work to do all of the pilings and moorings and piers and so forth, and mark the channel for the GIS that never got put into code. The official harbor line, the center channel, is still line drawings in planning and zoning.
Yeah.
All right.
Robert, I mean, should we close the public testimony and discuss?
Well, it's not an application. We certainly can discuss it amongst each other, but it's not like a closure because we haven't really, this is a discussion, not an application. I would say my concern is really the safety and navigation. It seems to be that the actual harbor masters have indicated it's a tight spot. It seems to indicate everyone, not everyone, but at least everyone who spoke at Maritime Advisory had also had some concerns. I'm now having some concerns that the process is odd, that we would give away public space without an actual process, that more than just a legislation being made and then waiting for a 90-day window for not enough people to have a study done. And it sounds like, that there should be more study before we would say it's certainly favorable. And I don't want to be left in a position that we didn't make a statement of unfavorable, and then this thing slips through, because I think the whole process again is odd, that we'd have a full legislation come to fruition without studying what's involved with it.
The optics is really bad. Yeah.
Port Wardens, any other part of this discussion?
Yeah.
Is Maritime Advisory meeting in August?
No, they're meeting in September. I think.
Okay, and when is the 90th day? What is the exact day that no longer does it have to be that you're relying on the other advisory? Understandably, statutorily, you don't have to evidently, acknowledge some of these other advisory boards. I don't know about the port warden. I would not port warden, sorry, harbor master. I would assume that should be something not to be just dropped. But when is the 90th day? What is the exact day of the 90th day?
Unless Carrie knows, I'll have to check. I can't remember when this was introduced. So we'd
I
have,
think it may have been introduced at the May 28th meeting. Because
Okay,
if it went for public hearing at the last meeting,
okay,
right.
so August 28th will be the 90th day.
so to be clear about the 90 days, it's not like an automatic discharge, right? Alderman Arnett, I think someone has to move for it to be discharged. And it applies to standing committees only. It doesn't apply to the boards and commissions. I don't think usually things are not discharged from committee, even if it goes past the 90 days. So I wouldn't necessarily consume yourselves with that prospect. Because it's not like a commonplace usually. And sometimes if it does get discharged, someone on the council will ask for it to be referred back to that standing committee or that board and commission for further consideration. And that usually is done without problem.
Let me be very open. Normally, at the end of 90 days, the sponsors will ask for an extension. They ask the council to postpone and extend the time of hearing. The real end date for this and all other legislation right now is it has to be passed by the last Monday in October, because that's the end of this term. So that's the real deadline on these things. I can tell you, I'm not going to push this forward because it's my legislation. I get to choose. I can withdraw it. But I'm not going to push it forward until we've heard from the port wardens and the Maritime Advisory Board, and most particularly from the harbor master. So
Haven't you heard from the harbor master? I thought there's already an official city document.
I want to talk to them because much of what I read in their report is opining on the changes that they want to make within the marina, not the harbor line. The harbor line discussion was it's a congested area. The stuff that's talking about the larger boats is not in the ordinance, and that's something that would go into the application. That's why I'm saying ignore that drawing that got attached to the ordinance. It shouldn't be there. And I would not sponsor this with that attached because I have no expertise on the size of boats. I mean, 110-foot boats and things like that sounds pretty big to me. I don't like the Clorox bottles that are parked right next to the yacht club and yacht basin, the winning drive and things like that. So
Mr. Arnett,
that's
I'm
not the
sorry.
intent of the legislation.
Right. I may be reading it wrong, but this particular section of Back Creek currently experiences considerable boating traffic, and the proposed modification of the harbor line would exacerbate the existing congestion. How does that have anything to do with the diagram that was put up of that is directly related to the alteration of the harbor line? The harbor master is as clear as can be in
the harbor master's discussion, as I read it, and Tim is here, he can speak to it, was discussing the changes that were within the slips within the marina to reduce the number of slips and put in larger boats.
There's a staff report. Is the staff report not what the harbor master is indicating to the city? Maybe Jackie can help me with that, but I'm looking at a staff report from June 11th, Annapolis Harbor Lines and Chester Avenue, and it says the harbor master office has identified several concerns regarding the potential impact on navigation with Safe Harbor Marina. Do you have this? I can share it.
And what I'm saying is that a lot of that discussion for me, when I read it, is talking about changes that are not part of my legislation. They're changes that are on that diagram that got attached behind the photograph. And so it's talking about reducing the number of slips within the marina. That's not in my legislation. It's talking about putting larger boats within the marina. That's not in my legislation.
Okay,
So
let me,
those things,
maybe I'm confused. Let me just read this again. The particular section of Back Creek currently experiences considerable boating traffic. The proposed modification to the harbor line would exacerbate the existing congestion.
that is speaking to the harbor line. Then when you go on and read the next couple of sentences, it says, moreover, such adjustments are not typically made between private marina slip owners exercising their riparian rights. Likewise, the city is not required to make such adjustments to the harbor line. I'm not really sure what that refers to.
But
But to
that
me,
they're still indicating the congestion and the safety. It's not like they're not speaking to the big concern here. I understand what you're trying to say about that other, diagram being in there, created by them but presented by you. But it still doesn't. It still is pretty clear. I mean, well, we've got Harbor Master Jacobs here.
Yeah, yeah. If I could chime in, you're both right, uh, and we did, of course, take into account the image that we can't unsee, right? But I guess my question would be, why would we give someone a bigger yard if they're not going to grow grass? So if we're going to provide an extra amount of harbor line for them and expect them not to use it in the way that they've shown, we're kind of jumping to getting things in order there. I just don't understand why they wouldn't then put bigger boats there, that they're in the business of
And
making
to
money,
add
right?
on to that, I did speak with the acting harbor master, Tyler Northfield, when he drafted the staff report. And I asked him to first address the harbor line question alone. And then if he had additional information regarding the intended plans, once the harbor line was adjusted, he could also share those concerns. So that first, well, actually it's the second paragraph under impact of legislation and operations is speaking to the harbor line itself, that adjustment. Then in the third paragraph, he goes on to talk more about if that what harbor line adjustment allowed certain things to happen, how that would create additional concerns. So the chairman is correct that the harbor line itself was addressed alone in the staff report. But then, as Alderman Arnett says, later in the staff report, they talk more about the impacts if additional, if modifications are made for larger vessels.
Alderman, any
Correct.
response?
well, no, I think Tim makes a very good point. Why expand the yard if you're not going to plant the grass? And that is, in fact, my intention. My intention is to try to have a win-win situation where, because we want public water access and because we have a particular situation at the end of my street, 6th Street, that is high above, so we have to do the back and forth and then throw out the floating dock with its floating attachment to the fixed materials, that it does, in fact, impede those slips, 3 to 5 slips, depending upon how you look at it. I think actually our lateral line affects all the way down the line, all the way out to the channel, but we're focusing on those slips. And so when the applicant came through their attorney and said, "Can we find some kind of quid pro quo?" and suggested changing the water line, and at the time, I thought of it as a 1 for 1, 3 slips for 3 slips. And, but I can't control what goes inside that rectangle that's created by the blue line and the 2 red lines. That comes later. So
Well,
it
if you
was a
you
quid
have
pro
some
quo.
control, you presented the legislation, right? You have the ability to withdraw legislation, correct?
I do.
So you have some control
But
in potentially either that or extending our ability to study it. There's you have you, I can't imagine you.
when I said control, I meant what goes on within the marina outside of
I'm not asking
adjacent to the
about
harbor.
that. I'm
Yeah.
asking about your ability to acknowledge it might need more study beyond a certain time frame and that maybe we withdraw and then you represent it after we've done the study.
Well,
Wouldn't you think that might be prudent?
I think I would need to know more. I understand what Jonathan was talking about is actually putting things in the water, blocking the water off temporarily, something like that. That would be wonderful if who is going to do that? Where's the money coming from that? And who's going to be evaluating that? But that's not what we've done in the past. And so maybe in the future, we need to be thinking about a process like that, put it in Title 15 and make that a legislative requirement. But that's not the requirement now.
All right. All right. Thank you. Is there any more in the discussion? I can't make a motion as the chair. So and again, I know it's still just a discussion, but we probably need to vote if it's favorable, unfavorable, and the conditions that relate. I assume that, Carrie, correct?
Yeah, you need to vote on a decision to make.
Okay.
Sounds like the
So-
alderman has said he's not going to put it before until he has word from us and the Maritime Advisory Board. That's correct?
That is correct. And you
So
have
then we
on the
don't have
record.
to make a decision tonight, favorable or unfavorable, right?
But it can be brought up or let continue through to the next layer while we're not meeting in August and Maritime Advisory Board is not meeting in August. Is that accurate?
And
The
city
council is not
council-
meeting in August. The council is on a recess in August, and the Environmental Matters Committee is taking up this legislation on September 11th. So there will be no council action at all in August.
Okay. And then when does it occur in September?
When does the council meet in September?
Yes.
That's a good question.
I don't know, the second Monday in September, but if it hasn't gotten through the environmental matters, it can't go on the agenda till the fourth Monday in September.
I think what you're asking is the motion that we cannot agree with the amendment or with amendment without further evaluation. No, what we're saying. I don't
It
know
is, but we don't want to be left out of not putting our stamp on how we feel.
Yeah,
before.
we can't approve without further evaluation is really what we're saying.
Can we change our recommendation in the future, given more information?
Of course.
If someone put a motion up for unfavorable without further study.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Without further study, we cannot approve.
There's a thing with security things where fail to open versus fail to close. In other words, if a security door loses power, it's meant to open, which means people can flow through, or fail to close, meaning if the power goes out, it closes. I'm worried about this circumstance where the process seems a little flawed already, but I'm worried about us not taking an unfavorable so that should there be a timing snafu, considering they could possibly meet a week before we actually meet again. It may not make sense to leave just a postponement in place, but then again, I can't make a motion here. So,
So we should make a motion to make a decision either way. Is that what you're saying,
I think
Robert?
we need to make a motion. We can certainly do a postpone, but that's not gonna, there's no guarantee that it's gonna get really discussed beyond this. Of course, this is on video and people can certainly watch it, but I do think we need to have a motion in some capacity, and it can be postponed, but I can't make it.
Are you suggesting then the motion could be, and I'm not making the motion yet, but the motion could be that we do not approve until without further analysis?
Right, unfavorable without further analysis, something to that
Right.
effect. That way it's on record that we do think it's unfavorable, especially without the study, but with all the other factors laid out tonight.
So I'll make that motion to unfavorable until such more information is gathered.
Okay, So let me put it up for the 5 of us, the motion that Mr. Anderson presented, which is we are voting unfavorable without further study. All those in favor?
You need a second.
Second.
Sorry.
Second.
Sorry, I apologize, Mr. McCott. Thank you very much. All right, all those that are voting this unfavorable without further study, please state aye or yes.
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Okay, I believe that's all 5 port wardens.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Carrie, let me know if I need to, or how, I guess it'll be in the record, but let
It's
me
in the
know.
record, but it might be helpful to say what specifically
Sure.
should be
Absolutely.
what the study
Absolutely.
should be.
I will put that together in the next 2 days.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
may I thank you for your thoughtful discussion, and I'm
thank
hoping
you.
we can bring back, for all of us, including me, more information so that we can make a better informed. I don't know that I think we're going to have to change the code to get into the kinds of analysis that Jonathan is talking about, and I think that's probably a good idea, but that's not going to happen in this term.
Okay.
Ross can you bring it up on your next term?
Thanks.
My
All right.
next term is not a term.
All right, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Arnett.
Yeah,
We're not,
thank
no
you.
one's trying to be sort of tough. It's just we're
You're doing your
really
job.
trying to, we again, I think there's some elements that could be looked at a little longer before it automatically goes into play. All right, thank you again. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
Next
All
meeting.
right.
Next meeting date.
Yes, sir. That's coming now. Next regular meeting will be September 23rd, 2025. All right. There being no other items on the agenda, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Second.
I'll give that to McCott. All right. Thank you. All right. All those in favor to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Hearing no opposition, the meeting is adjourned.